Welcome back to the Many Toys Of, the show in which we go over the action figure history of various Transformers characters. Do you ever just have a point where you think you hate Transformers? Now let me explain myself here. I love Transformers. I love the stories, I love the characters, I love the toys. But every so often, I think that fans and creators alike can get so insufferable about little details. So similar to the Star Wars fans, I don't need the backstory on every single thing. And yet here we are in a world in which there is a multi-decade spanning story, one that brings in Vector Prime, Facebook, the Legends manga, IDW Beast Wars sourcebook, and the Binaltech manga, trying to explain why there were two assholes named Prowl in the Beast Wars toy line. This episode is going to be breaking our usual formula a bit because it's hard to explain the legacy and story of this character. It's easier to go through the toys and try to explain how things got stitched together as a result. What you need to know is that in 1984, there was a character named Prowl. Prowl is a police bot. He was the second Autobot character made. If you want to know more about Prowl, go watch last week's episodes, The Many Toys of Prowl. But you should know this is a character with a very important legacy within Transformers. In 1984, Transformers had a comic book and a cartoon series. Both of these are considered parts of the G1 continuity. However, neither one of them are in the same continuity. It was two separate storylines that make up the collective G1 universe. Now that's all well and good, until we get to the 90s, in which the entire toy line is rebooted with Beast Wars. Beast Wars takes place in the distant future, and also distant past, of the G1 continuity, following the descendants of the Autobots and Decepticons, now known as the Maximals and the Predacons. In the Beast Wars continuity, they make reference to events that only happened in the cartoon. However, they also make references to things that only happened in the comic, including events that happened in the Generation 2 comic. As a result, it's kinda hard to tell where Beast Wars takes place in the grand continuity as well, but just keep this in mind. Beast Wars has callbacks to two separate things that are both G1. Because Beast Wars was a continuation of G1, you had a number of the old names come back. Some of these characters were new characters that just shared the name. Beast Wars Megatron, Beast Wars Inferno, at least at first, the Fusor Silverbolt, Optimus Primal. All of these are characters that are just reusing the names. Even the Predacons are reusing the name of a Decepticon subgroup, the group that formed Predaking. All that's well and good. However, within the toy line, you also had characters who reused the name, but were still the original characters. The most famous example of this is Ravage. In Season 2 finale of Beast Wars, you had Special Agent Ravage, who was the G1 cassette transformer, now a Predacon. In the Beast Wars toy line, Grimlock was still around. And then you get to Magnaboss. Magnaboss had Prowl, Silverbolt, and Ironhide. Now, the actual toy does not say for sure if these are the G1 characters or not. However, there were similarities, and especially Ironhide looks like the G1 Ironhide. Eventually, it was confirmed these are the G1 characters. Again, this is strange considering that in the G1 movie, one of the most iconic scenes is Prowl and Ironhide biting the curb in 4K. But here we are. Silverbolt, Prowl, and Ironhide are now all in Beast Wars, now in Maximal bodies, and they are officially the ruling class of the Maximals, the last high guard of the Autobots. I can accept all of that, but we also have reuses of the name. We've already talked about how there's a Fusor Silverbolt, but we can accept that there's two Silverbolts with no issues. But for some reason, everybody had aneurysms about the fact that we had two Prowls. In 1999, there was a deluxe Transmetal 2 Prowl. This is a beautiful toy. I love the red, white, and blue color scheme. It helps that he turns into an owl. First of all, I like the pun. Prowl, owl, it's great. But also the robot mode is so slick. It looks like a samurai. I also love that he always looks like he has a raised eyebrow, like Prowl is judging you or is trying to figure something out. The wings are great. When he transforms, he's a beautiful owl. I love his massive monocle. This is one of my favorite of the Transmetal 2s. In fact, I'd go so far as to say he's the best Transmetal 2, at least for the Maximals. I really enjoy this toy. And of course, it comes out a few years after the Lion Prowl of Magnaboss, but again, we reuse names sometimes. I don't see the issue here. To be completely fair, it's not like people were rioting in the streets over the fact that we had 2 Prowls in Beast Wars. There were fans who were curious about it, but a lot of people just moved past it. So what? You got 2 Prowls. The issue is that in Japan, they already kind of had their own issues with 2 Prowls running around, and this poor owl got roped into this. Okay, I need you to stick with me, because this is about to be Pepe Sylvia levels of bullcrap. So, in 1986, the Transformers The Movie came out. However, that movie was not dubbed in Japanese until 1989. However, Japan still had the G1 cartoon going on. They did Season 3 of the cartoon before skipping Season 4 and doing the Headmasters anime. Prowl appears in the Headmasters anime, which is really weird because in Dark Awakening, a Season 3 episode that they dubbed, Prowl is specifically said to have died alongside Optimus Prime. Okay, so what? They don't need to bring that back up. But when they chose to bring the movie, that is when you now have to address the fact that Prowl died in the movie, which is supposed to take place before the Headmasters, but we have Prowl in the Headmaster show with speaking lines, and even worse, Wheeljack, another character that's also supposed to be dead because of the movie, is in victory. Now, I want you to try to map this out. The G1 continuity has the G1 cartoon, the G1 Marvel comic, and also a different G1 cartoon continuity only in Japan. And in 2 out of the 3 of these, Prowl is dead. However, in 2 out of the 3 of these, Prowl is also alive. And it's all because this movie got dubbed at a bad time. Fans will be fans. Be them on the Western Hemisphere or the Eastern, they're going to like to poke holes in things just for the sake of having a little bit of fun. I'm not saying everyone out there was being a sour sport about this, it's funny. Yeah, we got 2 Prowls running around, be it 2 Autobot Prowls or 2 Maximal Prowls. But sometimes fans grow into being creators themselves. And sometimes those fun things that you enjoy doing as a fan can bleed over into your professional work. Which is how we then get Prowl 2 to be an actual thing within the fiction of the Transformers. But it wasn't to explain that owl at first, it was to explain the cartoon Prowls. Before we get there though, we need to stop in 2000 to see Robots in Disguise. Robots in Disguise was Japan's attempt to fill the gap between Beast Wars and Armada. It was eventually brought over to the United States in 2001. When it was in Japan in the year 2000, you had the Autobot brothers. One of the brothers, specifically the middle sibling, was a police car. His name was Mach Alert. It's supposed to be a play on Red Alert. That's all well and good. However, here in the United States, we didn't want to name him Mach Alert. We gave him, as well as his buddy Brawn, proper US names, which is how Mach Alert became Prowl in the RID 2001 toy line. Now this toy is great, incredibly well articulated for the day, even if he has a lot of very strange kibble. In the same year, you would have gotten Super Mach Alert. This would have given you a blue Prowl. But in 2001, we run into some issues. There is now a second Prowl. And I'm not talking about the Super Mode. The Super Mode is nice and easy. Mach Alert just has a different color scheme because he got supercharged. But we get the GoBot molds, the Spy Changers come out, and Sideswipe and Prowl are in the assortment. when they are brought to the United States in 2001, we're already using the name Prowl. So, what do we name this character that in Japan is already Prowl? Do we give them a new name? Maybe this is a great time to bring out Red Alert or First Aid. No. In US markets, this 2-pack is Sideswipe and Prowl 2. 2001 was the first official use, and to date, one of the only official uses, of Prowl 2 as a name. Alright kids, I need you to break out the strings and the pins, because we need to stitch all this together. So right now, it is 2005. In 2005, we have 4 continuities going on, and 3 of them have 2 Prowls. G1 has 2 Prowls, Beast Wars has 2 Prowls, and now so does Robots in Disguise. But on top of the Unicron trilogy, you have the first ever toy line that was meant to specifically homage the G1 characters, as well as bank on some of that G1 nostalgia. Alternators. Alternators gave us a new version of Prowl. And even though the Alternators toys were great, in the United States they never had any form of fiction. It was just a great new toy line. In Japan, however, it was called Binaltech, and Binaltech had its own manga. And this is some buck-wild shit. Okay, so follow with me. Binaltech tries to explain how there's 3 different G1 continuities. At some point before the year 2005 in the G1 cartoon continuity, Wheeljack gets visions of the future. In these visions, he sees the death of himself, Prowl, and he believes he sees the death of Hot Rod. What he actually sees is Hot Rod running to try to save Optimus. In any case, Wheeljack becomes aware that him and Prowl and several other Autobots are going to die horribly in the 1986 movie. As a result, Wheeljack is wanting to make sure him and his friends survive. So he begins the Binaltech process to give everyone newer, more powerful bodies. He starts with Optimus and then moves on from there. The reason he wants to build Prowl's body is because he can see that him and Prowl are both going to be needed for events to happen after 1986. Basically, Wheeljack has visions of the continuity errors of him showing up in Victory and Prowl showing up in the Headmasters anime. So he is trying to specifically focus on making new bodies for him and Prowl. Now, the only issue with that is he doesn't know the context of Prowl's death. All he knows is that Prowl is going to die on a space shuttle while the shuttle is in transit somewhere. He doesn't know where the shuttle is going, he doesn't know who's with Prowl, which is also why he didn't build new bodies for Brawn, Ironhide, or Ratchet. So he needs to find a way to get a new body to Prowl, but also have a way to get the spark to actually show up in the body when Prowl dies. Because he's freaking out, Wheeljack thinks the best thing to do is to make a matrix that has a complete copy of Prowl's identity and memories, and go ahead and put it in the Prowl 2 body, what he's dubbing the Binaltech body. He's also going to use subspace to try to space bridge Prowl's spark to the new body the second his vitals go off. So essentially, Wheeljack has made a trigger within Prowl's body that will transport the spark as soon as it starts to fade. Only issue is, Wheeljack sees Prowl get attacked in the year 1992. And the reason that's a problem is because that's not 2005, when the movie's supposed to take place. So Wheeljack flips the switch too early, and the spark is taken from a still-living Prowl body and is lost in subspace. He has no idea where it wound up, and is trying to make ends meet because now Optimus is mad at him for basically murdering Prowl. That spark landed in the Marvel continuity. It's not doing anything, but it's just there. It can't get out. It's stuck there. It can't talk. It can't move. But Prowl's just in Marvel, which means now there's also 2 Prowls in Marvel, but we're not dealing with that right now. Wheeljack begins to panic, because he thinks he can find Prowl's spark, but he needs to get an exact copy of his data signature, and to do that, he needs a Prowl that's alive, which is when he brings in Chip Chase. Chip Chase and Prowl had previously worked together when Chip Chase essentially took over Prowl's body using his computer. So what do? They get Chip Chase to just go through Prowl's personality matrix? No, Wheeljack puts Chip's mind into Prowl's body. This makes Prowl 2. And they use Prowl 2 to locate the original Prowl Spark and bring it back to the G1 cartoon continuity. But now, you got 2 Prowls. Well, you see, that's nice and simple. You just take Chip Chase out of Prowl. Boom, it's done. But now you have the good Binaltech body. So Prowl is like, well, what are we doing with this, Wheeljack? Why would I go back to my crappy old body when this perfectly new, good body is right here? So Prowl and Wheeljack just go ahead and switch over to their new bodies. After the events of the movie are done, Wheeljack and Prowl go back to their original bodies, which is why they look the way they do in Victory and the Headmasters, and they put the Binaltech bodies into storage. And then Chip Chase dies, and his soul goes back to Prowl's body because of the fact that they were previously connected, which is how, by the time of all of this being done, you now have a second Prowl that still has Prowl's memories, but is different because Chip Chase is also swimming around in that horrible mind palace. And in doing so, that destroys all 3 of the universes. I want you to remember something I talked about at the beginning of the video. The fact that the Beast Wars continuity connects to the G1 cartoon and the G1 comic, and makes mention of specific events that only happen in one of those 2 things. So how did 2 universes turn into the Beast Wars universe? It's because Wheeljack destroyed reality. When they brought Prowl back over, they accidentally made the G1 Japanese cartoon continuity, the G1 American cartoon continuity, and the G1 Marvel continuity all fold in on itself, making the Beast Wars continuity. That is how you still have the Battle of Autobot City. That is how you get Chris Lott as Starscream, while also having the Swarm from the G2 comics. It's because all 3 of the continuities folded in on themselves because of all of this timey-wimey nonsense from Wheeljack. Which is also how you get 2 Prowls. One of them is the Headmaster's Prowl, and the other one is the Chip Chase Prowl. Because everything folded in on itself, Ironhide didn't die in the 86 movie, and Grimlock is intelligent. Marvel Autobots are now alongside the cartoon Autobots, which is also how you can have a cartoon Prowl and a cartoon Silverbolt be 2/3 of Magnaboss with a comic Ironhide. So that is where proper G1 Prowl is. He is the Lion of Magnaboss, the strategist, the one who served in the Great Autobot War. And then we get back to our Owl Boy, the one that started all of this. When you read the toy bio of Transmetal 2 Prowl, it says that he is a great strategist, and he believes that in a past life, he was a leading military commander of the Autobots. It's supposed to be a cute nod, a way to say, hey, maybe this is the G1 Prowl, or maybe it's just a cool new character. That toy bio, the idea of him potentially having a past life as the Autobot Prowl, it turns into this horrible thing in which we now know that that owl isn't really Prowl. It is Prowl's memories. It is Prowl's brain. But he has the heart of Chip Chase. The reason this Prowl is so much more social, so much more moral, has such a strict sense of right and wrong without any of the moral ambiguity that Prowl usually deals in, it's because Chip Chase is in there. The sweet computer nerd, best friend to Spike Witwicky. He is that owl, and he doesn't even remember who he is anymore. He doesn't remember being Chip Chase. He doesn't remember his humanity. He doesn't even remember being the Autobot Prowl for a short period of time. It's all fleeting to him. He doesn't have the ability to appreciate this amazing life he had because he doesn't remember any of it. All he has are glimpses, flashes of such a small part of his life. Think about it. Does Chip remember Spike? Does he remember Carly? Does he remember standing up to Thrust to try to save the Autobots during Megatron's master plan? Does he remember any of the great heroics he did when he was just a simple little Chip Chase? No. All that's left is the Owl. This horrible approximation of an Autobot who didn't even care all that much for him. Whatever, I'm done. Many Toys of Astro Train next week, probably, and, we'll see what we get up to next time.